Hi, I'm Shlomi Ron, CEO of the Visual Storytelling Institute. We are based here in the sunny Miami, Florida, and welcome to another episode of the Visual Storytelling Today podcast. Today, I have an interesting topic. As you all know, the metaverse has been on every brand's minds these days, and a lot of brands trying to figure out their metaverse strategy. And what seems to be happening, there are two kinds of distributions, brands that looking to host their experiences on popular platforms like Decentraland. That's what Fashion Week actually did a few weeks ago. And there's other opportunity for brands where they want to create their own metaverse experience and host it on their own website or AR, VR. So today, we're actually going to talk about the second use case. How can brands develop metaverse experiences on their own platforms? Again, be it their website, AR, or VR. So to help me unpack this exciting topic, I'm excited to speak with Ida Keimer. She's the Strategic Business Development Manager at Journey. It's a Berlin-based metaverse company. And they're actually the folks behind the Vogue business experience that was hosted earlier this month with great success. And they helped other brands like BMW, Adidas, Siemens, and many more. So with that, welcome to the show, Ida.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent, excellent. So before we jump right in, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey, how you find yourself in the metaverse field. How do you get started?
Yeah, I think that is an interesting topic for anyone who works with anything metaverse related today, since it's such a new field. And we often joke at Journey that we are an old company in this industry because we are already existing since March 2020.
Wow.
But my experience, I would say, is maybe not the experience that most people would think of that I would have working in a metaverse company. So I actually come from a background quite artistic. I worked on stage.
Oh, wow.
And then that led me into starting my first own company that was a Seoul-based design studio. But we did a lot of 3D work already then. We worked a lot with digital screens and how to sort of manipulate physical space. So shared experience, stage work, etc. We worked with big names like Dexter, SLS Hotels like Las Vegas, these kind of companies to play with that. So that is really where I come from. Shared experience, stage, space, experiential design.
Was it for like theater or movies or for what?
I started from contemporary dance and music, and then this transitioned into more, working with big companies. So it became a more corporate approach, of course. And then from there, I went into consulting for 3D immersive musicals and other, creative tech, again, experiential. So when we had that technology trigger of the pandemic and the world sort of turning very flat and very 2D, it wasn't that far for also our founders with similar background as me and somebody like me to end up in a metaverse, because it is creating a internet that you can step into, right, and have a shared experience.
No, absolutely. Wow, that's quite fascinating. So you've been in the 3D immersive experiences for a while, and that's interesting to see how you kind of develop your skills in a variety of use cases and experiences. So that kind of brings me to my next question. It's a question I ask all my guests since we are wearing the visual storytelling hat. Based on your journey, how do you define visual storytelling?
That is a very good question. For me, it's about, I would like to expand the concept to not just visual, but really to all senses. And that is the key, to have this multi-dimensional where sound and everything else is involved. And especially, I think the main center point of it is connection with other people into a shared experience and emotional connection.
I see. Interesting. So it's really kind of a multi-sensory experience that goes beyond just a sight. Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So how does that translate into your role in a journey in terms of what you do there and processes? How do you help brands?
So if you look at my specific role with a very long title, as you just had to pronounce it.
Well, that's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't work specifically with the creative part. We have an amazing creative team that takes care of all of that. I look more at partnerships. So it's more thinking about where could we possibly be going in terms of tech, but also, you know, society and the needs of consumers, etc. And how can we get there? How can we be ready? So that is my days basically are made up of speaking to the most intelligent, innovative, creative people across the world to figure out how to do this together.
Right. So when you work with brands, you know, what is like the typical process? You know, brands come to you with what the typical business goals they're after, for example.
I will make it journey specific in this case. So as you mentioned in the beginning, it's a difference. You're looking for something different when you're going to Decentraland, for example, or Sandbox, Roblox, you come to us. So when businesses come to us, they are looking for this reconnection. Again, we were disconnected with the COVID trigger, and they're looking for that reconnection. And I think having that experience of the pandemic and spending even more time online, a lot of brands realized how disconnected we actually are on the internet. So that is kind of where they're coming from. And then again, it's about creating experiences that reconnect emotional experiences, and they somehow blow people away. And then they're looking for something that is accessible to all on all devices, I would say.
I see. No special gear, you know, headset or anything, you know, make it super easy to interact.
Exactly. I like a story that one of our co-founders have, Thomas, when, you know, we were building up the Journey platform, he did a test with his father. So he simply sent a link to his father. So again, it's browser, just a URL like any other thing. He sent his father, who was very old at that time, and they together entered a forest, one of the forests that we had created, and they took a walk through the forest. And Thomas realized that this was a very emotional experience to take a walk with his father in there, and his father later said the same thing. So I think that gives a little bit of a feel of what a brand also would be looking for.
I see. And do you find in terms of particular use cases, I've seen from the information on your website that you are helping brands bring to life events, games, 3D products. Can you talk about a little bit about the different use cases that you cover, I mean, in your past 2 years?
Yeah, in our very long experience in the metaverse, right?
Well, yeah, that's eternal.
I would say that, yeah, exactly. It's very different. Some brands, and especially in the beginning, we're more looking for conferences, you know, replacing that what was very quickly taken away by the pandemic. And then we have use cases which are basically a replica of a physical space. But then it goes to the most crazy things. One of them is right behind me here. You can see that it's really out there. So bold experiences. BMW was one of the first ones where they wanted a sort of Alice in Wonderland feel, turning everything upside down and, you know, trigger our inspiration instead. So a lot of the events up until now have been peak experiences and really about reconnection, but we're seeing more and more brands are looking to build platforms, showrooms. You might have seen the H&M that was spread over internet. I think it was last week, and spammed everyone's feed. That's one example of it, more of a platform. But then we also have a lot of businesses looking at creating business models now. So it's like we matured along the way.
Oh, so it seems like from just temporary metaverse experiences centered around event that happens, for X amount of time, moving to permanent presences, I guess like the H&M and BMW, that are more kind of have longer shelf life.
Yeah, the BMW per se is actually a peak experience, I would define it as, but more and more of the cases that we're looking at the moment are trying to figure out how to make something permanent.
I see. And what type of, for the permanent executions, what type of use cases are there? Is it like a store? Is it, or kind of a wonderland? What type of usability or?
In the type of conversations that we have at the moment, I would say it's across all industries and all kind of business models. Yeah, so anything from e-commerce to just having a solution to show your office to people. It's really everything that is going on out there. It's amazing to see the creativity that this is triggering.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah. So I wonder, you kind of, we talk about a few interesting use cases. I wonder if you can share a few examples and just kind of get, since we are wearing the visual storytelling hat, if you can show us something visually.
Absolutely, I'd love to. I'll share a video. But before I show the video, I just want to point out that with the technology and with the technology that Journey is, we can have any type of visuals. So anything is possible, anything we can imagine. And what you will see is filmed in the browser. So it's not a pre-rendered, you build something in Unreal, you render it out, and then you watch the movie. Imagine that you would have a little URL, you've clicked in and you're actually walking through that experience, or you're in that experience. So I would just want you to keep that in mind while I'm playing the video. This is one of the comments that we got on our first BMW experience. But we're just gonna browse through a few just to give you an impression of that kind of Alice in Wonderland, but also product integration, high quality 3D products that you can go up and see the glue at the seam of a shoe. Not that brands really show that, but that's possible. To imaginary words that you can cruise through networking events, speakers. You have Obama floating through there, and so everything directly in the browser. We have more and more fashion coming in, I would say, at the moment. And you can just imagine, also from a sustainability perspective, what is possible if you can show your clothes digital first. We also do a lot of hybrid events that you just saw, where actually our founder, Thomas, was on the stage speaking in a physical space, and then you have it in the metaverse as well. So this kind of hybrid solution. Beaches, forest, Angela Merkel. Yeah, just gives you an idea about what type of visual quality that is possible. And here we have Coldplay playing live inside BMW's experience. We also had Christopher Waltz dressed up as a fox, guiding us through. But again,
that's fascinating. So is it like I've seen before that you have a few 3D products there, like the Adidas shoe and some watches. So these are made for kind of almost like a QVC kind of selling experiences for consumers, or more kind of wow effect demos to the media? What is the typical purpose?
Up to today, we have seen most B2, let me think. Yeah, more B2B cases.
I see.
That it's more showing, buyers the product before they're even made.
Got it.
There again, you can play with the sustainability as a brand, right? So that's what we've seen so far. I'm expecting e-commerce to be doing this very soon.
Right. And speaking about e-commerce, obviously we cannot speak about Metaverse without blockchain and NFT. Have you done any executions where the monetization is actually done through embedded NFTs and virtual goods?
We did a case that became quite famous back in December for Miami, actually.
Oh, nice.
Our castle, Miami.
My hometown. Yep.
Exactly. So you could have seen it there being on one of the screens, actually, in the exhibitions. That was together with a German artist, NFT artist, Kenny Schachter. He's Gallery König, the one that works with him, and then with Zaha Hadid Architects. And then we were showcasing these NFTs inside a journey experience.
Nice.
And you could, of course, purchase the NFTs there as well. When it comes to the other like kind of follow-up questions coming from there, you know, in the metaverse field, we are all looking at interoperability at the moment. And it's something where the technology is developing every day. So I'm really excited to see what will be possible even in a few months from now. But it's a place of experimentation and innovation right now.
Right. And just to kind of make it clear for our audience, when you say interoperability, can you talk more about that? Is this the capability of basically entering a journey experience and then be able, with the same credentials, move to another platform? Is that what you're talking about?
The idea of interoperability is to be able to bring digital assets across. We're not talking about, and we will never have one metaverse, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be one company that owns the whole internet.
Not yet.
We don't want that. We don't want that. But the idea is rather just like, you know, I can wear this shirt now in this call. I'll be able to go to a restaurant after this and still wear the same shirt.
Right.
So that is the idea behind interoperability, to be able to move digital assets across.
Your avatar can actually move across platform, basically, with the same content that they accumulated elsewhere. Pretty much.
Yeah, that is right. The idea that, I mean, we have Ready Player Me, we are integrating with them, which allows you to bring your avatar across platforms. That is already existing. And in the future, we will see the avatars being, for example, able to spend most of their daily life maybe in Decentraland, and then they come into Journey for a peak experience where maybe they acquire a clothing piece, and then they go. So that is how people in the industry are thinking about interoperability at this point.
Right. So you don't really need to keep a profile in one place with all your content. Actually, your content follows you wherever you go, pretty much across platforms. That's no, that's amazing.
It's going to be interesting.
No, definitely. So another thing, you know, since you've been working with many brands until now, you know, I'm sure what are the typical challenges that brands are facing that, you know, my audience should know about as they kind of consider entering
the metaverse? I think from my perspective, it's really to keep an open mind, to come to people like us and be okay with not knowing. This is new, we don't know, and we're here to find a way together that works for the brand, right?
Right.
So that is definitely the first thing. Another thing would be that since it's such a trending topic, we can see brands kind of jumping on it without thinking, why am I doing this? What part of my brand is it that I want to express through this experience? So that is another thing that I would, you know, really recommend working on. And that's also something you can just talk to people in the industry and find your way.
No, that's so true. I mean, a lot of people jump in without a good value proposition, establishing, you know, an affinity with your brand and the use case, the experience. So you definitely want to, and also make sure your audience is really ready for it, right? Sometimes there's a lot of education that needs to happen, you know. So
and that's where kind of our approach journey, the route that we chose is high quality, directly in the browser, accessible to anyone. on any device.
Got
so
it.
that is also where you need to know who you're targeting, because if you choose, if all of your consumers are anyway on Roblox, then go there.
Yeah.
If you have a broader use base that don't want to connect a wallet to a platform, then maybe you should consider coming to Journey. That's
Right.
You need to know, just as we needed to learn with social media, where are your consumers, or how do you bring them into the metaverse?
Yeah, that's a valid
really
point. Yeah. And assuming you know, with all your experience working with brands and kind of guiding them to, you know, an exciting and very rewarding metaverse experience, I'm kind of wondering, when a project ends, how do you report? What is the success criteria that you report back to the brand?
That is a very good question. I would say it depends on the use case and what was the intention. For some use cases, it might be the amount of people that visited the experience during a set time.
Like conference or event.
Yeah. For example, the Joytopia, where we had a Coldplay, then the success rate could be measured in terms of how many people visited, but it could also be measured, right, in the amount of feedback it gave on social media.
Right.
And the buzz around it. So it depends a little bit on where the marketing department is coming from and what is actually the intention. If you're looking more at maybe a platform like a showroom, or if you're creating business models, then the success would be about something else, right?
Like monetization over time of your NFTs or virtual goods. Yeah, that's another.
Exactly. So it's really like with anything else that you do as a business in visual storytelling, you need to know why you're doing it and keep the focus clear, right? Until the end report.
I see. And we kind of covered in the beginning, the two distribution types, hosted on Metaverse, other Metaverse platforms like Decentraland, Roblox, versus hosting it on your own media properties like the website. So what is the common misconceptions that brands, when they come to you, you're hearing quite often?
I think the first one is like, do you have a Journeyland? That's the first one.
Oh, okay.
Because we've gotten so used to Decentraland, right? So people think that there is one journey, and in Journey there are the users that you can make this experience for. Where we come from the other, think of us more like this is your flagship store or your event space. This is you and your brand, and you can design it to anything you like. You can decide this experience, and then you bring the users to you.
Yeah.
So that I think would be a very, very common one.
Yeah. I mean, the way I think, and I've seen it with other companies, that other players that operate in this space, it's almost like going to an architecture firm and asking for this new building. Obviously, it's not in real life, but it's in the metaverse. And that's what you guys are doing. We're basically a 3D architecture firm that make these experiences happen for brands for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I really like this idea of, thinking of it as a beautiful internet that you can step into.
Right. No, definitely. Cool. So we talked about some monetization models before for your experiences this could be from events, ticketing, I guess, NFT, virtual goods. Are there any other methods to monetize an experience a brand could hope for?
I think there will be many coming. What I see, and I don't want to give anything away, of course, for the brands that I'm working with and talking to, there are a lot of business models being created right now. And I'm very excited to see where they will go. And I can see some that will be very successful for sure.
Yeah. All right. This is very cool. So before we close, what would you say your top 3 tips for brands that are considering hosting their own metaverse experience on their own media properties?
That's a very good question. I think the number one is something that we touched upon quite a lot during this conversation, is know why you're entering. Don't follow the herd. Know why you're doing it. Second thing I would say would be to think long term. We are all learning. This is your first experiment, so to speak. Just do one thing. Be specific and try one thing. And then the last thing I would say connects to this with beautiful internet that you can step into and share the experiences. Be bold, create connections, do something that enables creativity and inspiration instead of just recreating what we can see in the world we're already
in. Yeah, so kind of go beyond copycat what it's already other brands are doing, try to kind of create your own vision, obviously with your brand affinity and business goals. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think to me, the ability to create anything in the internet that you can step into is to suddenly have the power to create anything that our mind can come up with. And a kind of baseline in that to play around with is, how can that inspire your consumers or users?
Yeah, no, that's a very fascinating. It's like pretty much an open-ended invitation for brands to really, create their own imaginary playgrounds for their consumer to interact in. And so really the possibilities are endless. So thank you so much, Ida. This was amazing conversation. I really learned a lot. And, we're just in the early days, as you said, and there's so many ways you still can experiment and create new experiences for your brand using this whole metaverse, and especially where you don't have to do it on a rental land like other metaverse platforms, but you can actually bring it to your own media properties, as you said, your website or your AR or VR, and really control the experience pretty much from top to down. So with that, how many people can actually reach out and connect with you if they have any questions?
How they can reach out, that was the question, right?
Yep.
The easiest way is to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just Ida Keimer, or Ida Keimer, however you want to pronounce it, and send me a message. That's the best way to get in touch with me.
All right. Thank you so much, Ida. It's been a blast, and I hope to see everybody in our next episode of Visual Storytelling Today. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.